So of course I covered the MrBeast drama in yesterday's video and the massive backlash he received to his newest video, but of course loads of MrBeast simps flooded the comments saying, well, he's done more than you, he's a better person than you, what have you done? Very, very, very predictable. And I even admitted in the video, based on all the stuff he's done, I don't necessarily think the video yesterday was really that bad. But MrBeast still hasn't tweeted since, he still hasn't posted since. He's still coping with a minority leftist backlash on Twitter and also that ridiculously narcissistic thing about him running for president. And I was actually researching him a bit more. I didn't know he actually wants to run for president. Like, he said numerous times when he's like in his 40s, he wants to run for president, and we're going to get into like what his political platform will be because it's absolutely ridiculous. But I promised this video was coming yesterday, and now you guys can send this to people, or you can watch it for yourself if you think MrBeast is good. This is basically a video about why MrBeast is bad, why he exploits poverty for content, and why he's someone you shouldn't aspire to be like. Now, I tried to treat yesterday's video with a bit more nuance because I think the subject had a bit more nuance in terms of like, was it good what he was doing versus was it exploitative? And although, you know, the video could not exist without the very gross conditions in the US healthcare system and other places around the world, because the video does have a little bit at the end where they go to various other different countries, I think in terms of the subject matter and other things about it, it wasn't as bad as some of the other videos. And I've made a lot of videos covering MrBeast, and if you've been a very loyal subscriber for the last nearly 3 years, you might recognize some of the clips I'm going to use, but I feel like I need to put everything into one video because it's too spread out, and if I like use one example, people are like, well, that was bad, but this, so I'm putting it all together. And one more thing I will say before we go forward, I know people have done videos on Team C's and Team Trees, and they've criticized them a lot. Although I know a fair bit about Team C's, I'm not actually going to cover that. I haven't made videos about it in the past, and I just wanted to focus on what I've been covering specifically. And if you want good videos on that, there are plenty out there. It's actually one of the things MrBeast was criticized for a lot more back in the day. So I have a little list on my phone, and basically we're going to go through his content, his charity work, his politics, and then we're going to save the most interesting one for the end. I'm joking, the financial side. But I do find it interesting because I have been speculating about his taxes a lot in previous videos, but then I finally watched a video where he actually talks about his tax, and then piecing that together with like other things, I think it makes my case more compelling about how he probably pays tax the same way a lot of rich people pay tax. And as someone who's been criticizing MrBeast for like years, I just feel like this whole thing has really vindicated me. And honestly, I just think he's a massive narcissist. And the one thing I've maintained throughout all these videos, yes, in a vacuum, MrBeast helps people. Yes, in a vacuum, people who receive his help are grateful and they probably like him for it, but there are plenty of other problems, and we think about the societal implications of just letting rich people control their wealth to do as they please and relying on this rich charity rather than focusing our efforts on systemic problems. And if you're someone like MrBeast who uses poverty as a backdrop to make yourself look better or completely ignores systemic problems, although he helps on a micro level, I don't think on a macro level he really does much good, and that is pretty much embodied by things like Team C's. All of that coming up for you today. Please like the video, and in the comments, please feel free to leave like what you think is the worst thing MrBeast has done, because I'm going to leave out a lot of stuff, and I'd be interested because people always message me stuff saying, did you know he did this? And I'm like, well, I didn't know that, so thanks for telling me. So let me know down in the comments. Also, follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter, and also on Instagram. Instagram is where I post around my travels around Southeast Asia. It's actually the last video I'm filming in Thailand. I got my Port FC Thai football shirt on. Been here since early December. I've really enjoyed it. Off to Cambodia next, then Vietnam, and then Japan to round up my tour around Asia before going back to the hellhole that is England. But if you care about any of my travel stuff, Instagram. Also check out the Patreon where I've posted 2 exclusive travel videos and hopefully going to update that with every country I've been to. Also get the benefits of getting access to the Discord server and my Nintendo Switch friend code. And also check out the subreddit and check out my second channel down in the description. So most of you guys know who MrBeast is, and I don't really want to give like a big long intro about where he came from. But what yesterday's backlash and his response to the backlash confirmed to me is that Mr. Beast is primarily motivated by clout, money, and fame. Because if you guys remember, how he became famous was essentially gaming the algorithm. Like, the most infamous videos were him like counting to like 1 million or something, or maybe a bit less, and things to do with like listening to Jake Paul's Everyday Bro for like 1,000 times in a row because he knew these would go viral and help him in the algorithm. And if you actually look at most of his content through this frame of reference, you can see how the charity stuff often goes into that, or the stuff where he gives loads of money away, like giving people cars, buying people houses and stuff like that. Do you think he does that because he is primarily a good guy, or because this makes very, very nice viral content? And as I said yesterday, we used to all agree that filming yourself helping poor people often distorts your motive for doing so because you're boosting your own profile doing that. So I don't know why we never have this conversation when it comes to Mr. Beast. Now, I don't even want to talk about the charity to start with. I want to talk about his other videos, which are more problematic. Now, I covered this in that video I linked yesterday called Mr. Beast Content is Gross and Exploitative. And basically what Mr. Beast did was he ran this game show over like 5 videos, and it had like a variety of people on it, and whoever won all the rounds won $1 million, right? So a guy who wins one round is a guy called Mark, and then he actually wins the final. So in theory, he's winning $1 million. Although they do go on to make another video where he spends the $1 million in 24 hours. I did say originally, I hope he signed up for that and Mr. Beast didn't spring it on him at the last second saying, let's spend this $1 million to make another viral video for me. We could sit here all day, talk about how game shows can exploit like people's poverty and economic circumstances. I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on the part of the video where Mr. Beast shows us where Mark lives and his car. And I've played this clip a couple times in various videos. And while you're watching this, I want you to think about a couple things. Think about, why is this in the video? Do we need to see this? Does this make any difference to the viewer? Does this make any difference to Mark? And is this done to make Mr. Beast look better? And remember, this isn't Mr. Beast giving a random guy $1 million. He won it fair and square. If he won $1 million, why can't he just walk away with it? Does he really have to have his life filmed? And if you're thinking about, well, this guy probably said yeah to having this filmed, do you honestly think he would say no to a guy who's giving him $1 million off a YouTube game show? So let's watch a couple clips of them showing us Mark's life.
The 2001 Toyota Camry.
I bought it like that.
Oh, dang. How much did you buy it for?
$600.
So the current house we were just in, which is smaller than the one you just bought, you actually split it in half with another family.
Yes.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Technically, anybody could use $1 million, but it's clear that this is really going to change your life and help you out in a positive way. And I'm glad we could do that for you, man.
Now we're going to take you to Mark's house and just show you where he lives.
So this is where you currently live?
Yeah. This is my room. You know, this is where me, my wife sleep. You see, it ain't no room at all. Like,
You can't even open the door all the way.
right. This is my little cousin's room.
Your little cousin sleeps on an air mattress?
Yeah, and he popped it, so it's flat.
Your cousin is sleeping on an air mattress that's like has a hole in it, so he's sleeping on the floor. Can I just say, I'm super glad you won the $1 million. I really am. The more you show us around, the more you show us around, the more you show us around, the more I'm like, thank God you won the $1 million.
So again, let me reiterate, this guy won a game show. Mr. Beast isn't doing some sort of charity program. This guy won fair and square against loads of different people. Why do I need to see that? Why do I need to see his broken down car? Why do I need to see his house? And shows how little respect Mr. Beast has for it. He like kicks this guy's air mattress, and yeah, you can see from that video that Mark doesn't live in the most luxurious of circumstances, but there are a lot of people who will watch Mr. Beast's video with this guy and they will live in similar, if not worse, circumstances than Mark. And here's Mr. Beast basically going around his house talking about how terrible his life is and how happy this guy won $1 million because he's exploiting these aesthetics of poverty to make him look better. Again, this guy won a game show. When you see someone win Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something like that, does the camera crew then go to their house and show you their car and tell you, oh yeah, this $1 million gonna make this guy's life way better. He lives in a shithole. Look at his old rundown car for $600. As bad as game shows can be, they don't usually do that, do they? So why is Mr. Beast doing this? To make himself look better. Honestly, this is like insanely gross and exploitative. And of course, would Mark be happy about the $1 million? Of course he would. Is there an imbalance of power there when you're asking for consent to film someone's house and car and stuff? Because Mark wants to be friends with Mr. Beast, I assume. Mark wants to get in with someone who's so successful, and he's just won $1 million off this guy who's hosting a game show. Is he really going to say no to this featuring in the video? Again, all to make Mr. Beast look better and look like he's doing this guy a favor out of the goodness of his own heart, not this guy just won a competition you set up. I'm very curious in the comments, have you ever seen a game show where someone wins and then the host of the game show goes around their house to show you how they live and how much the $1 million will benefit them? It might happen sometimes. I don't think it happens often. So thank you, Mr. Beast and his friend, for that. Of course, you had to do that. You couldn't just respect Mark and his win. You couldn't just respect where he's grown up and where he lives. You have to exploit it to make yourself look better. But now I want to move forward to another video I've shown a lot, and it's Mr. Beast spending 50 hours in a maximum security prison. Now, a lot of the criticism in the video that came out last week or this week or whatever was that he didn't talk about the issue that causes so many people to be blind. But I guess I can understand the counter arguments in that he's helping 1,000 people have better eyesight. So although he does ignore the systemic problems and he only talked about them on Twitter when he got a pushback, I can understand that. But don't you think it's even worse? If you go to a maximum security prison, like basically rent it out, I'm guessing, treat it as a fun backdrop, and not only that, talk about how terrible prison is, and then say nothing about the systemic problems with the prison industry in America. And I'm going to talk about that after we've watched some clips in this video. Honestly, I think this is the most gross one. And you just have to be so like racially insensitive, especially to treat a maximum prison as like some fun playground when you know the context of the prison industry and government prisons in America. So let's watch some of this.
This is a real prison, and me and the boys are gonna try to survive the next 50 hours locked up here.
Get in here. Chad's against the wall.
There against the wall.
I'm just gonna do what he says.
Just so we're clear, we are going to be treated exactly like inmates, okay? We're going to be eating real prison food. We're going to have to mop and clean the prison and all around subjected to the mental warfare that is being a prisoner. I hope you guys are ready. First thoughts on my brand new bed? It's very uncomfortable. These sheets oddly feel like, hey, get your foot off my bed. I would like to discuss the toilets. What are your thoughts on them?
I'm not gonna lie, mine has like a yellow tint to it.
That's what I was about to ask. Now that we've established the toilets are disgusting, let's all taste test the fountain. Ugh. Ugh, there was something in it.
Look at all that stuff.
I'm just not gonna drink water. I'll just die. Let's just say the guards were talking a little smack while we were playing some basketball. Turns out they were better than we thought. I feel like the objective of prison is to make you feel like an animal.
Everybody line up outside your cell.
Every time I finally fall asleep, I get woken up. I'm so sick of this place.
Problem. In prison, they strip everything away from you, so even something as simple as hot water for a few minutes literally changes the course of your whole day.
I feel like the objective of prison is to make you feel like an animal. Make you feel like an animal. Make you feel like an animal.
I think this is the worst video Mr. Beast has ever made. And it's literally just like unbelievable. It's literally like a dystopian game show I'm going to watch in like Cyberpunk 2077. Like, how amazing is it? He talks about like how terrible the bed is, how terrible the toilet is, how terrible the water fountain is. So disgusting, he doesn't even want to drink water. Talks about prison being mental warfare. Talks about prison dehumanizing you and how grateful you are just for a hot shower. In the video itself, you see him being woken up like 2 times in the night and stuff. And then this guy uploads a video like it's really fun. And there's no point to the video apart from it being a fun challenge. He's not raising awareness. He's not doing anything to do with charity. It's just a backdrop for his video. And again, this is insanely problematic because he's doing this when millions of Americans are in this system right now. And of course, you have to be so racially insensitive to not understand the implications of what you're doing and how you're making light of a situation, because America historically, and it got ramped up under Joe Biden and Bill Clinton with the crime bill, has imprisoned disproportionately people of color for non-violent drug offenses, sometimes for the rest of their lives, right? Who will have to live in conditions like this for the rest of their lives. And not to mention, there's a whole private prison industry which incentivizes like the courts to imprison people for profit, and of course prison labor, where prisoners are used basically as slave labor. It's still an extension in many ways of African slavery. All of these things are tied up in the prison system. Mr. Beast has gone through that for 50 hours and he's talking about how terrible it is firsthand, and he still puts out this video like it's a fun joke and does nothing to raise awareness. And what people's criticism yesterday was he doesn't talk about the systemic issues. And like I said, Americans are locked up for non-violent drug offenses in these brutal, brutal conditions. Mr. Beast could have used his experience, talked about how brutal it was, and then he could have linked to organizations that look at getting people off non-violent drug charges, pressure Joe Biden, for example. If Mr. Beast raised awareness about these issues, it would actually have an impact because he has a massive reach. But no, he goes through this, treats it all like a big joke, while actually acknowledging, yeah, terrible, this is terrible. America has the largest prison population in the world. It nowhere near has one of the largest populations. It's an absolutely brutal and disgusting system that is not designed to rehabilitate people. It's designed as mental warfare, as Mr. B so nicely puts it. So if a system is designed as mental warfare, which disproportionately criminalizes African Americans on like non-violent drug charges, why is this an appropriate backdrop for your stupid viral content? It's of course not appropriate, and you Mr. Beast simps can't even make the argument at me, well, he's raising money for charity or something, because he's not. This is literally a viral video designed to make him a load of money and get him more clout and views. The fact he even considers this like an actual good place to film a video just shows you how out of touch he is. You want this guy as president, the guy who will film himself doing that stuff with Mark and then doing this is a guy who knows the struggles of many American people. It just strikes me as a guy who's insensitive to poverty and by extension, racism and stuff like that by making this content in the first place. I don't know how any of you Mr. Beast simps who might have watched this far can actually argue with me that any of these things are okay, which I've shown you, and we're only getting started. Now, moving away from just his straight up stupid content, a lot of people often say, well, Mr. Beast's whole channel is like a sustainable charity, despite the fact I say most of his videos have nothing to do with charity at all. So me and Amy C3, who is a leftist Twitch streamer who you guys might watch as well, we actually collabed on a Mr. Beast stream, which I uploaded on my channel as like a separate video. And we actually had a look at some videos on Mr. Beast's charity page. I'll talk about the charity as part of like his taxes a bit later, but basically Mr. Beast has a lot of charity stuff. Probably the most famous among them is his food banks. Now, of course, people working at food banks and donating to food banks are good people. Food banks, of course, are terrible because they're a massive indictment of a society that has so much food that a load of people still cannot afford basic necessities. So it's a pretty damning indictment against our system. It's a big talking point in the UK right now because so many people rely on food banks. So it's good Mr. Beast is doing it, but just like with his recent video, it's an indictment against our system. Someone like Mr. Beast needs to do it, and if he doesn't, then that's a load of other people who go starving. And Mr. Beast says all the profits on this channel go back into the channel, which is fair enough. But again, I do not like this guy and how he exploits poverty for his own image, which you're going to see me and Amy talk about, because he goes to the food bank and makes like a 3-minute video of, you know, how they're helping people, and then he interviews some people, and me and Amy talk about that. So I just want to play a little clip from our conversation where we watch the video and we talk about this.
As you guys know, we take 100% of the revenue from this channel and put it towards feeding people. And I've noticed a lot of you want to know more about who this food is going towards and how it's helping them. So I'm going to interview random people at this Beast Philanthropy food drive to show you why it's important you keep watching these videos.
It helps so many people. We have a large family. I cook for about 16 people.
Really?
I have 9 grandkids, 3 kids. I also fix soup and dried beans and things like that for neighbors who are widows.
And I love that right there because she's grabbing food for people who can't drive and distributing it to them as well.
We have a lot of elderly women in America that's living on $500 and $600 a month. My Social Security check is the same every month.
Yeah, so if something goes wrong, then that screws your whole budget up. You were saying your kids love the video?
Yeah.
Can you surprise one of your kids with this brand new computer?
Don't know how much this is needed.
Thank you for coming out.
Oh my gosh, I love you.
This is Lonnie, and can you just tell us what brings you to this food drive?
It helps our family out a lot. My dad died 2 years ago. Also, my sister had passed. Me and my kids been going through a hard time. I had to choose between car insurance, rent, cell phone bills, so I choose food for my kids instead of paying any of those bills.
But because of this, you don't have to pick anymore.
No, I don't have to do it
love
anymore.
I appreciate you doing this interview. I also want to just give you 2 brand new iPads as a thanks. If I knew he had so many kids, I would have brought more. They even got me something as well. Oh, you brought me a card?
Thank you.
Oh, why don't you guys send me a thank you card? Just kidding, you don't have to. Just subscribe and we'll call it even.
Mr. Beast is an awesome individual.
Y'all don't even know how much it helps.
How did the testimonials
have really been a for them, or we wouldn't know what to do. It touches our hearts. Some people really need it.
It's even just a response to yeah, I had to choose food over bills. Now I can pay those bills. And it's like, this guy is so poor, he can't afford a basic standard of living. I think that's like a bit of a bigger problem that you're just like nodding your head. You're like, oh, you can afford the bills now. That's good.
And like I don't even know if that was like the conclusion. Like, I now have, you know, there's a chance that I will have and I can pay my other bills, but it definitely is no guarantee. I don't know.
Well, my problem is that it's exploitative of that guy's situation, because Mr. Beast, that you've got like a lot of people in this video. We don't know their economic situation as much. Like maybe there's someone who, like that woman at the start, like it made a bit more sense because like I have loads of family members, and she also said I like cook for other people in the community. The food bank really helps, and it's like, okay, that's fair enough. Like you're providing food that this woman helps redistribute to other people. Isn't that nice? Getting some guy whose wife and did she say it was a mother and his brother or some, two of his like prominent family members dying, with a bunch of kids talking about how he can't pay the bills, and you're like, I've helped this guy out. Doesn't it look like I've solved all his issues? Again, it's like this might make you look better to people, but it only makes you look better by being like, look how bad this guy has it. I just helped him, but it didn't really help him. I just read a comment in the chat and I really like this. I see danger. I just picture the words bouncing off his head while he waits for the opportunity to present the gift to make the content moment. And like, I didn't even think about it like that. So look at the title in the screen. You changed this family's life. Whose life did you really change? Like you didn't change that guy's life too much. I mean, yeah, he can afford his bills now. Great. He can afford his bills. Like bare minimum of like living. You've changed his life forever. For me, it's like you make so much money, do this in private. And I get that maybe the motivation is to inspire other people to do this, but like we've all, this genre of YouTube content has been around forever. Like giving a homeless man like, I don't know, $10,000 and seeing his reaction. But like, it's just very, I feel it's just gross. Like, I would feel so bad showing that me having a conversation with that guy. I would feel bad publishing on my channel, even if it was part of a broader video, because I'm just like, what is the purpose of me showing this? And that's what you got to ask yourself when you're watching this. What is the purpose? Like, because also the thing is, this is a 4-minute, this is a 3.5-minute video. Think of all the editing that goes into this. Like this couple on screen right now, how much did he record of them to? He had to go through all of that and think, what is the best person I can show for my video about the food bank? Oh, here is this guy who doesn't even look excited to even talk to me. He does look like, you can kind of see it in his face. He does look someone who's very overwhelmed. Let me stick this guy on instead. Like, oh, Mr. Beast, I'd be like, no, just give him the iPad, give him the food, and leave him alone. Like, don't use him as some sort of and I'm sure like he asked permission and everything, but it's like, don't use him as part of this exploitation. And like you said, all this ad revenue and the money goes right back into the channel and to the charity. But it's just very, very tone deaf, and it feels like only it could be done by a white liberal. With someone like Mr. Beast, he's in the position of power. How he could privately help this guy if he wanted to. Instead, he just uses him for this video.
A lot of charity type stuff is seen as a substitute for real action, and I totally agree that it is great to do what you can and provide some monetary donations to a local organization, and charitable causes can be really great and necessary and helpful, but at the same time, this is not it in terms of what you could be doing or how you could be making a difference. If you are watching Mr. Beast literally humiliate people for the purposes of shining a light on what he is doing at the expense of those he is directly exploiting to try to sell content and this idea that Mr. Beast is a good person, if your content revolves around you proving that you are a good person by finding people who are incredibly vulnerable, exploiting them, and then humiliating them in front of millions of people, I don't think that you are really spearheading any real movement other than your own goals for advancement, popularity on the internet.
So you can watch the whole conversation with me and Amy about like all this stuff and like millionaire charity. It's called Mr. Beast content grossly exploits poverty. And you guys might watch that and be like, what's the big deal? Like, you know, he's helping people, he's helping them, but he's also exploiting them, right? It could be two things at once. Like, he's feeding this guy so this guy can pay his bills. Then this guy is coming on his video and talking about how if it weren't for Mr. Beast, he wouldn't be able to pay his bills, and isn't Mr. Beast so great? But that's just like a damning indictment on the system in general, like a lot of his content, because this guy shouldn't go hungry and he shouldn't rely on some YouTuber maybe one day deciding he wants to do some charity. Like, it's food banks first and then he wants to restore people's eyesight. Does Mr. Beast genuinely care about eyesight? Is that like passionate for him? Has he dealt with blindness? Or is it just some idea that's popped into his head and some idea that's been suggested to him? I said in my last video, he might do things in some ways because he's a good person and he likes to help people, and he can like helping people. Like, we all know when you help someone, it feels good. But like I've said, just like with the old example of filming yourself giving money to a homeless person, if you do a food bank and then go and start filming obviously poor people who are in dire circumstances to tell people how much you're helping them, to promote your overall image, and you've actually done that multiple times in other instances, because for some reason he treated that Mark guy the exact same way as that father in that video. He acts like both times he's helping these people as a savior, but in only one of them, he's doing it for charity. In the other one, this guy won a game show. And Mr. Beast is showing you that. And like I said, I'm sure that father agreed to be in the video. It doesn't really look like he wants to be there, but if the guy who is running the food bank asks if you want to be in the video, then again, power imbalance, he probably would be more inclined to say yes than no. And also, like we were saying, his reaction about like giving iPads and stuff like that. Like I said in the video, if you really want to help this guy, can you just do it in private? Like, a lot of the stuff Mr. Beast does, I don't think needs to be filmed. Like, even if he went and saw like Mark's conditions with him, why has it got to be on the video? Like, why? Like, can't you just go see that as like a nice guy, maybe Mark's new friend, and see how much it will help him? Keep it to yourself. Like, why do you got to show the world? Do you want to embarrass these people for content to make you look better? Because it's pretty sick in my opinion. But Mr. Beast is not the only like millionaire who does this, but I just want people to have more nuance when it comes to the discussion. Like, yes, Mr. Beast doing food banks is a good thing, right? Mr. Beast helping people's eyesight is a good thing, but the problem being is, does he do this to be good, or is he filming it to boost his profile and ultimately his revenue? And also, like, he wants to run for president, so is he trying to boost his profile throughout these years before he's old enough? That is another element to it. And again, he just comes across as an absolutely massive narcissist who is really out of touch with reality. And that's what often happens when young white men become very successful YouTubers at a young age. So now let's move on to the politics of Mr. Beast, because a lot of people say, well, Mr. Beast isn't political. I think saying you're going to run for president multiple times is pretty political, if you ask me. And if you say you can run for president, I think you can also talk about systemic issues in your videos, which often tackle symptoms but don't actually direct any energy at the problem. And obviously, he's stated multiple times he absolutely loves Elon Musk. And I said in yesterday's video, it seems like he's turning into Gen Z Elon Musk. But I want to talk about the president thing, because this is so laughable, right? And it shows you how narcissistic this guy is and how there is no substance to him at the end of the day. Because listen to some of the justification for him wanting to be president and him thinking he can be president. So YouTube star Mr. Beast said he will probably run for president. So in a recent episode of the TMG podcast, Mr. Beast, whose real name is Jimmy Donaldson, talked to the show's host about immigration and green cards and taxes and how the American government system needs a good fix. Is it going to be you, Miller asked the popular YouTuber. Maybe in like 20 years, we'll see. Before adding that he wants to make a ton of money and give it all away right before his campaign. And then going on to say, and instead of getting into lobbyists or agendas, yeah, don't want a political agenda when you're running for president. I just do what's good for the American people. Sounds like it would be a good idea. Both Miller and co, who seem like idiots, believe Mr. Beast could make the presidential bid because people would know his face, to which the content creator agreed he could too. Yeah, I think I could. I think when I'm 40, because I do think presidents are getting way too old. Especially by then, a lot of older people in America will just die out, okay? And there will be more people around our age and stuff. So there we go, political Mr. Beast. Are you guys convinced? You want to vote for a president who has no agenda and just wants to do what's best for the American people? Like, this reminds me of that video I made about Matthew McConaughey mulling over running for the governor of Texas because he had absolutely no substance to him because he was such a fence-sitting centrist, the same way Mr. Beast would be. And when he was actually confronted by hard questions, every single answer he gave was basically like both siding everything. It's funny, the comments about age. It seems to me, Mr. Beast thinks as the older generation like go away and die and stuff like that, and the younger generation get older, then that will be more popularity for him. But he's in for a bit of a stark realization that as his audience get older, they're going to realize how terrible capitalism is because Gen Z are leaning towards socialism. I'm guessing the next generation are going to be even more screwed over by the economic system. They're not going to be convinced by snake oil salesmen who do gimmicky stuff, thinking that Mr. Beast will save them. Like, is he going to run as a third party? Is he going to run as a Democrat? Probably going to run as a Republican, in my opinion. That's just before celebrities generally failing at politics. Like Donald Trump and Ronald Reagan are like the two success stories, of course. Ronald Reagan's a bit of an exception because he like ran up the ladders as well. And also I read a quote somewhere else where Mr. Beast says he wouldn't want to do any other political position but president. Like he said, I wouldn't want to be mayor first. I wouldn't want to be governor. I just want to be president, right? So this guy obviously is such a narcissist that his response to mild criticism of him helping people is, would you vote for me for president, my Twitter simps? And of course, most people said yes on that stupid Twitter poll. But again, it says everything about him. A guy wanting to be president based on no policies, a guy wanting to be president while he exploits poverty, a guy running around a prison talking about how it's mental warfare while not actually trying to help that problem at all in his viral video. You think people are going to vote for you for president? You think people are so stupid they will vote for you? Like, do you guys honestly think Mr. Beast wants what's best for the American people? Think of his origins, think of his content, think of what he does. Do you think most of the stuff he does isn't like self-serving? Because I definitely do. So speaking of self-serving, let's get to the last section of the video. Everything financial to do with Mr. Beast. So to a lot of people, it's pretty amazing Mr. Beast can spend so much money on these videos. He can spend so much money on really stupid stunts. Now, I'm going to talk about the tax a bit later, but let's start with this argument that Mr. Beast solely does videos to fund his charity. Like, he solely makes ad revenue and he puts it all back in to his channel just so he can do charity. He never buys anything nice for himself. He never like uses money on stupid things. He never invests his money. He never buys homes. He never buys cars. He never buys his friends stuff. He never buys his parents stuff. Never buys anyone anything. He just does it all for charity, which is one of the most naive things I have ever heard, but it's literally the comment I get in like all my videos on Mr. Beast. I hope most of the people who say this are like literal children, because you have to be a child to actually think that. Now, this video hasn't really got as much coverage as I thought, and I'm going to give a big shout out to Fillion here. I'm going to play a clip from his video because that's where I first saw it. It's Mr. Beast on Logan Paul's podcast, and I played this clip in yesterday's video as well, but I want to play the longer one. And it's them all laughing about them getting in on the ground floor on CryptoPunks, this like NFT stuff, right? And like I said, if you genuinely believe Mr. Beast makes all this money to put back into his channel to do charity work, why is he getting involved in like crypto pump and dumps with Gary Vee and Logan Paul, who was recently proven to be a crypto scammer, by the way? Why is he doing that? Surely he could do better with this money. Why don't he do more charity work? Apparently that's all he does. Why would he start investing with these two people if all he cares about is just the goodness of the American people? So let's have a look at this video.
So me and Logan both bought punks. You guys will probably see on his Twitter that he bought a bunch of crypto punks at the same time, right? When Gary pulled us in that call. Just out of nowhere, just calls me and he's like, yo, I got like 30 people to call, hop in. I'm like, I don't care. He's like, it'll be the best decision of your life. Just get in. I was like, okay. So there's like all these like very successful people in this call. And Gary's just like, everyone shut the f up. Here's what you're going to do, and you're going to do it right now. You're all going to buy a bunch of crypto punks.
So Jimmy, or Mr. Beast, just beautifully painted the picture for us. Gary Vee says, CryptoPunks, an NFT project, is going to be the next biggest thing. How do I know that? Because all of us are going to make it the next biggest thing. If we all band together and buy them, create a monopoly, the price has only one option. It's going to go up. And what do you think happened?
CryptoPunks. It's going to be huge. It's going to be the next Facebook, where all of us were like, okay,
Everyone's
Gary.
judging. I'm texting Logan, and I'm like, Gary lost his
legit?
mind.
Bro, all of us are like, yo, Gary's nuts. Yo, Gary was right again.
Are you guys hearing the words like coming out of this man's mouth? They're laughing about market manipulation. This is a crime if this was stocks, right? Securities. This is not allowed for multiple reasons.
Like 8 of them, and they did pretty good.
And any zingers? Any like real special ones?
I had some that like whatever 20, 30x.
What?
20 to 30x'd his money on a JPEG created by a bubble of other rich people, probably just laundering their money?
I bought a bunch of, so then I rolled the money into VFriends because Gary, same thing, called me. He's like, VFriends? I was like, I don't know, but last time I made money, sure.
Mr. Beast just said he rolled the profits from the CryptoPunk gig into VFriends, which is Gary V's flagship NFT project.
Guys, a question. When Gary does that call with all these billionaires and 8 months or a year later, everybody's like, Gary was right again.
Yeah.
Is it possible that he's right because of the call?
So thanks, Fillion, for that coverage there. I play this clip a lot of times on my channel as well. And like yesterday's outburst by Mr. Beast on Twitter, doesn't that put to bed this notion that he does everything because he's a good person? I'm not even trying to tell people that Mr. Beast doesn't do good things or has never done a good thing, but there's a notion about Mr. Beast that he only literally makes videos to do charity work. So why is he doing market manipulation and pump and dumps with Gary Vee and Logan Paul? Can anyone answer me, please? I asked this question yesterday in the comments. Answer me that question. If he only cares about charity work and the goodness of the American people, why is he partnering with known con artists to rip people off with the biggest con of the last couple of years, NFTs? Please, again, do you guys honestly think Mr. Beast doesn't care about money, doesn't care about fame, and doesn't care about enriching himself? Of course he does. Just think about everything I've shown you. Think about his background. Think about how he even became famous. Please, people, stop being so naive. Now, just talking about his finances a bit more, and we're getting into more about his taxes and maybe how much he gives back to the government and how much he spends and stuff like that. So I just want to start off with one thing, right? So I made a whole video on this over 2 years ago, and it was basically that it was reported that Mr. Beast received COVID relief loans. Now, basically, what COVID relief loans were loans of up to $1 million you could take from the government for your business, and it would be basically written off if you used it to, I think, pay your employees and maybe some other business expenses, specific ones, right? And it turns out Mr. Beast also claimed these loans, and they're meant to be for small businesses, not for people like Mr. Beast who spend millions on videos or hundreds of thousands. And I just want to read this report before we talk about a video he made about the same time it came out he was taking COVID relief loans. So FaZe Clan, Jeffree Star, and Mr. Beast received coronavirus relief loans. They were all approved for loans between $350,000 to $1 million. So Mr. Beast YouTube LLC was approved for a PPE loan on April 14th, 2020. A representative for Mr. Beast YouTube LLC confirmed that the company received the loan, but did not clarify how much the company received. The rep told Mashable that the company had over 40 employees and many brand partnerships that fell through in the wake of the pandemic. Only 7 jobs are listed in the Small Business Administration data, which the representative chalked up to an initial clerical error on the application. So even if we assume that that is a clerical error, that there weren't only 7 people working at that company in April 2020, does this guy really need COVID relief loans to pay these people? At the same time his story came out, so a couple months after he got the loan, he made a video about lighting the most expensive firework. All the fireworks in the video cost $600,000.
This is the most expensive firework in the entire world, and it cost me over $160,000. And I also bought a $5,000 firework, a $10,000 one, and this big behemoth right here is a $40,000 firework. And everything here, we spent over $600,000 on this video, and every single firework will be launched.
So in America, while a lot of you are suffering, the government barely paying you anything to subsidize your lost wages and stuff like that, people like Mr. Beast were getting at least $300,000 in COVID loans that get written off by the government. So essentially, your tax dollars were funding stupid stunts he did. And this is a guy apparently who only makes money to help the American people, but then takes loans from the government and then goes on to spend $600K on fireworks. Because when you're such an ethical and good guy, when you're literally the YouTube Jesus Christ, I'm sure that's what you do, isn't it? You take money from the taxpayer to fund your stupid videos because all you care about is giving back to the people. In my opinion, it's pretty indefensible. There are so many expenses Mr. Beast has, which he could cut and then save this money. If you're only taking between $300,000 and $1 million, why don't you not make that firework video? There you go. You've saved the money that you needed, apparently. And I'm sure your business will survive without making that one video. Absolutely ridiculous. People think millionaires both pay their fair share and don't leech off the government. Elon Musk is the exact same. So finally, on that note, I want to speculate about Mr. Beast and his taxes. And I say speculate because, of course, we don't know. I can't say definitively how much he pays as a percentage of his income and stuff like that. But he has spoke about his taxes a bit, and there have been people who have offered him free advice about how he could save money on his taxes. And I actually found this video really interesting. It's a video with Ethan Klein on the H3 podcast, and they're talking about taxes. Now, keep in mind, Hila Klein and Ethan Klein are Jewish, and I'm only saying that because he constantly starts talking about like Jewish Brooklyn bankers. I just don't want to give the impression that Mr. Beast is sitting around talking about how great Jews are as bankers and stuff like that. So I just got a couple clips of them talking about taxes. And I think what's interesting is Mr. Beast doesn't really seem to know a lot about taxes, but Ethan is encouraging him to save money on his taxes by claiming a lot of his like viral video stunts as expenses. And Mr. Beast saying he'll look into this because I think it's only the second year of him being set up like a major company. So he's just wondering how much tax he'll have to spend this year. And then I want to talk about what advice he probably got, because we actually have a video of a lawyer giving Mr. Beast free advice of how he could save a lot of money. So let's have a look at the Ethan Klein clip first.
What are your taxes like? Because you give away so much money. Yeah. I hope that that's all deductible.
I do too. If it's not, which
that is brutal.
If it's not, I might have a GoFundMe coming up, but we'll see, because this year's taxes are coming up, and that's when it's gonna. I mean, like millions of
You're
dollars.
about to find out.
I'm gonna be
how bad you got it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have it all documented. We have receipts and stuff, but it's like, yeah, of course, yeah. Last year was stupid. The amount of money we spent. I mean, like some months like $500,000 on videos, so it's gonna be dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it's gonna go. Even then, like that one, they would pay taxes. It's a little more messy when I give someone a car.
Well, I guess they have to claim that.
Yeah. That one's an easy one. Yeah. It's more like literally like I gave like 6 cars, and so like who pays taxes on these like 40, 30, 20.
I wonder if
cars?
there's not room for an argument that it's just a tax deduction for you, because it's part of your. It's
we'll see.
It's kind of like
an expense.
Yeah, it's an expense of doing business.
But I'm pretty sure someone has. I didn't.
You need. I hope you have a slick accountant. Dude.
Yeah, we're gonna find out.
I hope you have a slick Jewish accountant with a Brooklyn accent.
Yeah. Well,
do you?
I don't. I need to switch them up.
I just signed over to a slick Jewish accountant with a Brooklyn accent.
Did he help you save money when you gave
actually from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need one of those. I think I have one of those. I don't deal with any of that.
We don't know yet,
I have a
but
friend
that's the hope.
Well, yeah, this year he's going to save us a lot in taxes. I have a friend in show business who's pretty big in show business who recommended him to me. No, I don't think you're a big spender. I'm sure you're.
What? Big spender? I am. I'm a huge spender.
Not on yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's all business. You're spending money on your business.
But you gotta make sure
someone has
you
to pay
can
taxes,
deduct it,
either me or the people.
But I'm just saying it should be deductible because it's a business expense. You got to get a slick Jewish accountant to make sure it's categorized as a business expense.
Yeah, can you go to the Supreme Court and tell them that?
It's not a Supreme Court. It's a good faith argument based on, because we're in a new vertical in terms of business. Traditional. We don't really fit the traditional mold of how people spend money on entertainment. Like what you're doing is a legitimate business. If you're not giving out $100,000, people aren't watching your videos.
Yeah.
So I see that, and I think it's a good faith, legitimate argument to make to the IRS that, hey, this is all deductible expenses because this is what you do.
Yeah. I guess.
Do you want me to be your accountant?
Yeah, you want to just do everything for me?
So at that time, Ethan Klein is obviously far more established than Mr. Beast. And he obviously knows how much you can like get tax write-offs in terms of having a company that does YouTube videos. And the only thing they're debating kind of is, can Mr. Beast start claiming expenses on all the stupid things he does, like buying people cars, buying people houses. I also get the sense that Mr. Beast does kind of know this, but he's not being honest, maybe just playing along. But if he's not, if this was when he was more naive, Ethan is saying that, well, you should, and I can hook you up with a good accountant who will hopefully save you a lot of money. Mr. Beast was very big at the time, but obviously he's massive now. And then I speculate that he probably does get a lot of this written off in tax as business expenses, because if you do have good accountants and you have good lawyers, pretty sure they could argue for you that that is a business expense because it's vital to making your content viral and stuff like that. Don't know if you've spoken about this any further, but on that note, I have another interesting video which I've shown before, and it's a YouTuber, and I'm going to put his name on the screen. And he's basically a lawyer, and he's out for a run, which is kind of funny. But he advises Mr. Beast what he should do to avoid paying taxes to Uncle Sam. So what I want you to keep in mind in this video is think about what you've just watched with Ethan Klein, and then think of the type of people Mr. Beast probably hired to be his lawyers and accountants. would they not be telling him the exact same thing as this guy? And would Mr. Beast be open to what they're suggesting? I'm mainly thinking in the realms of charity and the LLC primarily, but let me know what you guys think.
Getting ready for 2022, there are all types of ways to legally and ethically minimize your state and federal income taxes and maximize either your profits, what goes in the pockets of you and your team, or what you may want to give away to different local, national, and international charitable organizations instead of writing a big check to Uncle Sam. Some of the tools that I'm talking about include the proper use of corporations and limited liability companies. It involves the proper use of employees, independent contractors. Retirement accounts are a great way to disperse funds, create additional write-offs, and maximize what you, your family, your team members either receive or can gift to third parties. Complicated for those of us that have been doing this a long time. But when it comes to the business side, protecting your personal assets from your business liabilities, maximizing tax deductions, and minimizing what you pay in state and federal tax, increasing the wealth of your family, of your team through benefit programs, through the use of properly formed, managed, and run corporations and limited liability companies, different types of partnerships. There are all types of things you guys can be doing that will literally save you tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or maybe in the case of Mr. Beast, literally millions or tens of millions of dollars in tax liabilities.
So obviously a lawyer who clearly knows what he's talking about compared to me, but I'm speculating here. This is just speculation. Like, do you think Mr. Beast has someone like this talking to him all the time? Do you think even if he was more naive on the Ethan Klein podcast, he might have a really good accountant who might advise him to do all of these things to save him a bunch of money? So to give some context, I'm self-employed. I still pay like quite a lot of tax, pay my student loans. I have some business expenses, which I can claim against my tax. It's honestly depressing how little business expenses I have, considering my tax bill was so massive this year. It's basically things like if I had to buy a new microphone, I bought this before I was self-employed, so I haven't expensed this or anything, but I could claim that against my tax and it could be classed as a business expense, right? Because it's something necessary for the business. But the thing is, when you have a company and you're set up as a company, you get a way better tax rate anyway, or like a way lower tax rate. And you can claim a lot more things in terms of business expenses because you're running a larger business. You have like employee costs, you have like maybe even building costs and stuff like that. So your area of actually claiming expenses is a lot higher, but also plays into the charity stuff, right? Mr. Beast has non-profits. Everyone knows that massive corporations use non-profits to either control where their tax money goes or not pay a lot of tax. Again, I don't know anything about Mr. Beast's taxes in general. I'm just saying there are plenty of people like him who use these systems to make sure they can direct where their money goes rather than that money being taxed properly and the government choosing where it goes. And maybe some libertarians among you might not have problems with that, but when we all have to pay tax, when we all have to pay our fair share of tax, personally, I hear of other people who are in a similar position to me not paying proper taxes or getting massive tax write-offs for ridiculous stuff. It is quite annoying because why should everyone else have to pay their fair share? And why should only a few very, very rich people be able to dictate where their tax money goes through things like charities and non-profits and stuff like that? So again, I'm not saying anything about Mr. Beast. All I'm pointing out is that Mr. Beast seemed quite open about ways to save money. Lawyers like the guy I showed you would tell him ways to save money, and he does have things like non-profit organizations, and I'm not saying he would just set that up to not pay taxes. What a lot of billionaires and millionaires do, because they're narcissists, they believe, well, I will spend the money better than the government, so I'll set up a non-profit and then I can direct it into a cause I care about while not paying my fair share of taxes like the average Joe, for example. So on the financial side, crypto pump and dumps with Gary Vee, taking COVID loans he doesn't need, and then we talked about his taxes. Again, do you honestly think everything Mr. Beast does is because he's an absolutely amazing person who, in his own words, wants to be president because he wants what's best for the American people? Or is this just like a narcissistic guy who might have some redeeming qualities in that he might like the feeling of helping people, but his primary motivator is fame and wealth? I've never seen a guy, maybe Elon Musk is the only other guy who does this, who is so loved by so many but can't stop talking about like metrics. Like the amount of times Mr. Beast posts about his views on Twitter, I don't see anything wrong with that. But if you're Mr. Beast and have so much money and clout and fame, like you get millions of views, like that's not even impressive. Like you're just trying to show everyone like you're the best. Like he seems obsessed with all this stuff because he always seemed obsessed with stuff. Like think about where he started, these stupid viral challenges. That's a guy who's obsessed with becoming famous. The reason me and you and other people didn't do that, we're not that obsessed. Yes, it would be nice to become a YouTuber. I always wanted to become a YouTuber growing up, and I'm lucky I became one. I did it through making political content that I care about. I didn't do it by making viral challenges to try and game the algorithm because I didn't care that much. And that's why people sell out so much, because they go with what's popular. They go with stuff that is viral. So yeah, what this video was really trying to show people, and it was trying to show people, first, I was right about Mr. Beast, but it's trying to show people that you should be skeptical of rich people who throw around money. Like I used to say to my girlfriend, because she used to like David Dobrik, I was like, I hate this guy. Like I hate this guy. I hate how he throws around money. I'm so skeptical of him. And surprising everyone, but not surprising me, turns out he's actually a terrible person. Because people have this mindset and throw around money on camera like it's nothing. You should always be suspicious of them. But then you have the aspects of exploiting poverty for content to make yourself look better. Just being like grossly insensitive about like real political issues, often that affect marginalized communities in the terms of like prisons and stuff. And then all the stuff to do with his finances. Even if you like Mr. Beast in terms of what he does, can we please accept now this guy isn't like beyond criticism and there isn't anything bad about him? Like, I don't even mind if you've watched this video and you still like him, but if you've watched this video and you're going to go into the comments and tell me how much of a terrible person I am for criticizing him, or what have I done, or that everything Mr. Beast does is just to put back into his charity work, you're just delusional. You just do not live in reality if you make that assessment after me showing you all the evidence to the contrary. So unless Mr. Beast has another meltdown and like some Twitter spree about like how lefties are being mean to him, this is probably the last video I'm going to make on him in a while. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.